Hey guys, welcome back to the LJL. We had a little bit of a break, and now we're diving right back into taking a bit of a better look at the game we did get to just witness, which was, surprise, surprise, Shengoku Gaming and Burning Core. And Nymera, welcome back.
Hello.
So, to the desk here. So, let's take a bit of a better look at that game, because there was a lot that we can sort of tackle into that one, really bite into, and I think let's start our look at this game at the start of the game, right? The champion select, because from Burning Core specifically, their draft was something that it wasn't what we were necessarily expecting, but it looked really,
Yep.
really good for what they brought to the table.
Now, so when I look at Burning Core as a set of individuals, I look at each of their players and I say, okay, once Rayfaki, you want to give them agency, you want to give them pressure in the early game, they have their favored champions, and you want to put some pressure towards them. Gadiadu, his best champions for me have been stuff like Azir and TF, which have similar kind of playmaking, but also on something like that Twisted Fate, which I'd say is his signature champion, it has that global presence, so putting them on the Galio seemed okay, that's something which can maybe start going topside, but also has the ability to bail out bot lane, particularly in this matchup, where you think this 2v2 is probably not going to be the thing which is thriving. Putting them on the Ezreal Braum, having a global mid and then pressure top seemed perfect for Burning Core. As soon as that everything was locked in, I looked at the draft and I said, if there is a way for Burning Core to win after their dreadful spring performance, this is it, a return to a bit more of their flavour.
And we did get to sort of see that, that aggressiveness, right? I think we have to talk a little bit about not only Rayfaki's Jace, because that thing did some serious bullying in the top lane. I want to look at the jungler here. Once that proximity to lanes in the early game was ridiculous. Like, he was just everywhere. 20% on the top lane and 24% in the mid lane in the early game as a Lee Sin. Like, that amount of pressure is kind of, I want to say, a little bit ridiculous.
When
From
that step popped up, you could really see the tempo of the game coming through right there. Of all the attention was right up there, right on the fridge, not allowing this Akali to get started early on. It was one fight that really gave Ramune the way into the game, but once was doing such a great job of neutralizing Gango, never letting them step up, completely keeping Paz in the ground. It was just those two double teaming them in the wrestling ring, like they're throwing the Gnar out of the pit consistently
Hey,
in
sumo.
every fight.
We're in Japan here, Melvin.
There you go. That's sorry. Keep it adapted. There you go. Very nicely done by those two.
It was, but let's talk about the black sheep in the room, the Baron Pit, or the Rift Herald fight, I suppose you want to call that, if you want to call it a fight, was, I want to say, a little bit messy from Burning Core. There was the flash over the wall. There was the very questionable re-engage. And as we talked about, that was kind of where we did get to see Sengoku Gaming getting back into it, right? It got the Akali 2 kills that you really sort of want on that assassin. And speaking of assassin, Ramune played phenomenally.
Yeah, and this is their debut Akali game, and I know you guys definitely want to talk about that more, so I'll let you kind of fire away on that a little bit later, but particularly the LJL has a fascination with fighting around Herald Pit, and this is one of the ways that DFM performed so well in spring. They just crush you around that first Herald. Burning Core, they do turn up to fight, they don't turn up to stay and just watch the objective get taken away from them after they'd leashed it. They blow a couple of flashes over the wall, but Rayfaki doesn't. He wants to take that fight, and they're trying to do the damage calculations and say, if we get a Galio ult here, can we play this fight? Answer is no. They trap themselves in the pit after they have their flashes already burnt. Things go to crap.
It definitely backfired on them, and Ramune was the main beneficiary of that. They got to sit most of the game after that point at 2-0 and 1, which is not really where you want the early game Akali to be. No. You want them happily neutralized as they have been up until that point, but using that power, they eventually ramped up. They took a little while to do it, I will say, but not going to complain, because when they did get the fights, with that rocket belt, they were a menace. They were always just eyes dead on you. He's Ezreal Sen. If I swear to God, if I see you on the side of that fight, I'm coming to get you.
This mid lane ain't big enough for the two of us.
Exactly. Insane pressure in the fights, and we saw it in that final replay we had where it was 3 people just dancing around Ramune and they could not touch them. It was great stuff, and I think that we finally got to see an improvement from them after their Lulu game in the previous one, so we actually got to see how their form is, and it's good.
I don't think it's the world's hardest thing to say, hey, let's give you a champion that is actually useful in the team fights other than buffing someone else up, and it looks fantastic. I actually would love to see Ramune given more of these assassins, and really see if that's a style that works for them, because they looked very comfortable on the champion today.
I mean, so Ramune, I mean, this is kind of going to a bit more LJL history now, but Ramune was the assassin player in the LJL. They were a Z player. Their most played champions are Syndra and LeBlanc. This is the player that dethroned Syros in the 2017-18 era when he made his debut and came in playing aggressively. Of course, LeBlanc is a bit harder to pull off right now. We're seeing some players doing that across the world. And finally finding one of those dive-in, high-mobility burst champions has seemed to be what worked for them last split as well. A little bit less with that rise, but he's always been a Syndra player, and that's something which they picked up in spring. This pick could be huge for them. Let's see it banned for all the rest of the split.
Fingers crossed, as we do have deadly Akali threats on the team now. Last person that really deserves credence right there has to be last lane is Gango and Enti. Enti doing some amazing saves game on the Thresh, but Gango, their damage was incomprehensible. It was a 1v2 in the poke war of Game 3 of today, and they ended up coming out on top after they crawled out of some of those bushes on slivers of HP from a single glance from Rayfaki. Very nicely played from Sengoku, and I think the trend for today has been, first game, team doesn't look so good. Second game, they improve. Only thing is, next game, we have Burning Core versus CGA. Now, let's see if Burning Core can try and improve on their style for that one.
You'd hope so, right? Like, let's keep the trend going. Let's keep that trend alive coming into what will be the fourth game later today. I suppose let's take one final sort of look at this game, because the mid game for our match today was very slow, was very much about moving out of the side lanes and once prowling the side lanes trying to find someone when they were unguarded, and the teleports. I don't think we could do a post game of this match about talking about the flank teleports where no one ended up dying. It's very unconventional. And I kind of want to ask you, because you know this region a little bit better, is that sort of the staple now is, let's go for this highlight-looking play that looks really cool and doesn't do anything?
I think this one's a special one limited to this game to this extent. I think we have seen a bit of a propensity for LJL teams to just fight around objectives. We've not really seen a lot of LJL teams willing to make a very large map, split it wide, even with the comp which Burning Core had, which you thought could go towards that. They didn't really pull the trigger of it. Actually, both teams were very hesitant to do that, because I think they were very afraid of being engaged on this in the mid lane, and that's exactly what we saw with Apperman, continually trying to go with that Mega Knight going forwards. I know there was a bit of a change with the Sundra coming in, which is more of a side lane option, but then they kind of went towards mid lane anyway. I think this was desperation, because they realized, oh crap, what are we doing? No one can hard engage, everyone's too mobile, they're too long range, we can't close the distance, we have to start getting unorthodox, and that's when weird stuff starts happening, that's when those teleports start happening.
I think weird stuff definitely summarizes this game pretty succinctly. It was everything all in one. It was a JRAM, it was a poke war, it was just flipping at objectives, it was amazingly Sin mechanics, so I would say that was a banger, and let's see if Burning Core can continue that form, because this is a good looking meta for them now, and this was another one of our bottom place teams that was robbed from playoffs because of the win-loss record against the SoftBank Hawks, who we've seen go 1-1 today. Coming in to the rest of the day, we'll see if Burning Core can match that and keep up the pace.
Yeah, but speaking of that, guys, there will be a little bit of a break before we dive into our fourth game, which is, surprise, surprise, as we've been saying, Burning Core going up against CGA. So, guys, do not go anywhere. Game number 4 will hopefully be kicking off soon.
Ka-chow.
And welcome back, everyone, to the LJLOU. I'm still Midnight. Surprise, surprise. I'm still joined by Nymera as well as Melvin Izzle for our fourth game of the night, which will be Burning Core versing up against CGA. Now, this game is looking pretty exciting and yet raising a lot of question marks for quite a few of us because in terms of the game, should be relatively exciting. Burning Core gets to redeem themselves after losing their first match of the night. And it concerns me because we're not, in terms of drafting, we're seeing some little bit odd things coming out of the LJL teams. And that odd thing that we're not seeing is the Gwen.
No sign of the seamstress anywhere, and Viego only really getting acknowledgement in the ban phase of that CGA game earlier today is a bit of a concern looking through at these very strong meta champions. It is confirmed around the world these ones are broken. Rumble has been non-stop priority in these games though, so we'll have to see if for both of these teams' second game of the day, if there's going to be any adaptations, anything that they choose to opt for, particularly considering that Burning Core effectively were in a winning state for a lot of their game, and Crest Gaming Act won their game, so in reality we may see very similar drafts from these respective teams.
And that'll be interesting to see how the drafting goes here. And I'm going to point the stick at Nymera a little bit because, again, you have a pretty good grasp of these two teams coming in here. And also the region in general. What's with this looking at what, the rest of the world looks at Gwen, says, oh, this is a really strong champion. The rest of the world looks at Viego and says, this is something that should be prioritized. The LJL is sort of looking at that and sort of shrugging and then saying, oh, we can just go back to our Nars and we can look at Akali's for the mid lane here. So what's going on?
This is the region which continually goes back to Nar, which sticks to their comfort champions and really doesn't wander that much outside of it. This is why I really appreciate the likes of Arya, of Ebby, even some of the players like Cog as well coming in for V3 in their top side, pushing that boat out because this region has been so lethargic at doing that to this point. I don't know whether that stems from teams needing to have a certain rivet put into the ground and said this is the bit which is fixed and we'll start moving around that because we can't start we're very familiar with it, but at this point you've seen a lot of the current meta kind of develop in other regions. You need to start catching up, you need to start developing, adapting, because you will get left behind.
Similar problem to actually what LEC ended up having last year around the carry jungler meta in reality. So it's something that we need to at least be acknowledging the fact of, yes, teams can catch up in the short term, but it's something that needs to be at least paid attention to. I appear to be very green on the stream.
I'm fixing it.
I'm having a great time right now. I'm going to the spa, all right?
What are you doing on my broadcast?
Now tell us, Nymera, this is your broadcast at the end of the day. Why is this matchup super exciting? Because we've heard a lot about Burning Core versus Crest Gaming Act historically.
Okay, well, you know what? Because you've asked me that, I'm actually going to stick with you guys just for the first pick man, because both of these teams have some weaknesses in that bot side, and they'll fancy each other against each other. Milan, Alchemy, not the strongest in lane. Milan, we've asked for them to stand up and be accounted for. The same with Yuhi and Proud, which we saw in that last game, did pretty okay versus even Gango and NC. They're probably going to survive on paper. Will that happen in practice? We'll have to see that. I'll leave you guys to it with that. Enjoy the game, guys.
Thank you very much, Nymera. And yeah, we're going to get right into the champion select here. And I mean, the highlight was the bottom lanes and how Milan and Alchemy and even Yuhi and Proud could be areas to target. Well, Yuhi's champion pool has already been attacked at. Ezreal has been banned. And the question then comes to, well, what else does Yuhi have in their pocket? Are they going to be willing to go for something aggressive like a Kai'Sa? Or are they going to try to find another defensive AD carry to run with?
It's always the Varus. We saw Gango had a hell of a time against Yuhi in the last matchup. It is still a pretty safe ADC, all things considered. Thresh is open, if required, as it will actually be Rayfarki's Jace banned, implying that potentially we will get an early Gnar pickup from CGA. It will be the Lee Sin, though, for Burning Core on first pick.
I love this Lee Sin here. We already saw once did a phenomenal job on that champion. Yes, it did lose, but I think that once played that game relatively well. Attacked the side lanes, had a lot of proximity. And again, you can flex it to Rayfarki in the top lane, who we know is an aggressive player. We saw what he did on Jace. there is a lot of room to play with here. Is surprise, surprise, the Rumble is going to be locked in, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they just lock in like a Gnar or a Noct, or not just Bam, but a Gnar here as well. But instead, the Varus picked up nice and early for Milan.
Taking that one away was one of the options we're discussing for Yuhi. Have to see how they adapt. And in this matchup, the personal best record that Once has on this Lee Sin, provided it is going to them in the jungle, they went 5-0-13 against CGA last year. This is something that we have been sitting on waiting, as it will be the Senna picked up for the second time today. Let's see if Yuhi can have a better performance than Zenit earlier. All things considered right now, we'll have to find out what they pair them with. Looks like it might be that old bot lane duo, the Senna Tahm Kench. There's obviously the more aggressive version of the set, but it will be that one locked in for Burning Core.
I actually quite like that because you can make a pretty good guess that Alchemy is looking for a Thresh here. So you can just simply say, well, Tahm Kench does well into Thresh because you don't want to hook the Catfish, and if you hook the Senna, Catfish go gobble gobble. So I do quite like it as a lock-in there. It's not going to be the Thresh. It looks like the Seraphine has been locked in. Now, yes, you can flex that, but I kind of would expect that to go in the bottom lane with Alchemy. A little bit extra protection and just damage, because it's not like the Tahm Kench can do much against you.
Double ranged bot lane does very well into Tahm Kench. They have a sad boy hour in that bottom side, as they cannot answer the relentless poke from this lane. However, we have seen a Varus Seraphine game go pretty poorly earlier, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually the CGA bot lane that did it themselves. So we'll have to see what happens coming into this one, as we do have Gwen finally banned away. Acknowledged she exists. That's good. I was just really scared that she wasn't just secretly disabled and we had no idea, because teams have finally paid attention to it.
Yeah, finally getting rid of that one off the board. And I'm not really surprised that it is going to be against a player like Ray Farkey. I'm not so sure the Gwen is necessarily their style, but if Gwen is a very good, aggressive champion, like a level 1 trading, and we know Ray Farkey can be quite aggressive as well, so I do like that ban. The other one, of course, the Diana. Not too surprising. Diana has been sort of rising up there, and it can be a bit flexible. It kind of basically says, look, if you want to flex the Lee Sin, you've lost another champion in Once's pool.
So, let's see what ends up being the final ban. It will be that Pepe Necton locked in right now is the last ban. Gnar is still available, as if we do have the potential to just stick with the old, if we so wish, as, oh boy, look at it, it's getting hovered. I'm ready for another Gnar, 4 in a day. I'm collecting them all.
Yeah, the old reliable Gnar in the top lane there. Can't go wrong with it, so Nap will grab that one up, surprising. Ooh, maybe one person in Twitch chat, I think? Oh my god, please do it, Ray Parkey. Please lock in the Camille counter pick. Please. Yes. It's all I want to see in this world right now is Ray Farkey's Camille. We know he can do it on Jace. There's no way he can't play this champion.
They are the Gnar killer right now, and you have actually thrown down the goal. That is just Gwen in a big suit. It's Darius locked in.
I'm a bit surprised to see the Darius, honestly. I know it is quite inside Ray Farkey's wheelhouse, but I'm still a bit surprised because I know Camille has a fantastic matchup into that. But, I mean, if you're feeling confident, grab the big armored man in top lane there. And with oh my god, with the Twisted Fate, at no point can Nap feel safe on a side lane. Because all it's going to be, he's going to see that little symbol pop up of his head, the Twisted Fate's going to appear behind him, and he's going to go, well, this is my life now. Crap.
We know that Gariaro is a very good Twisted Fate, their best champion, as we also have the Darius main in Ray Farkey playing their signature pick. So Burning Court, they have got comfort on comfort right now.
Yes! Let's go! We got a Zed mid lane, baby!
Okay, alright.
Even production unmutes for this Zed. Hell yeah!
Alright, we were expecting a banger, and by Lord, these teams are planning on delivering right now. Nathan pulling out the Zen of all champions. Okay, let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. We're not going to get to see the explosiveness until we're in game. So, let's acknowledge these drafts and just see what they are. So, taking a look at this mid lane, Nathan has actually took this Zed as an answer to the Twisted Fate so that they can attempt to use that ultimate on them and try and avoid getting yellow carded. It's very good right now. Zed is in a solid spot. It's just a very well, it's an assassin, simply put. So it's something that we don't see all too often because people usually aren't confident enough to bring it out. This is a big showing from Nahyun right now, and it is time for them to put all the marbles on the table and say if this is going to be their game to recover or not.
And I actually love the Z in this situation because it's against the likes of that Twisted Fate. I think it's not a, oh, let's just grab Z because I'm feeling it. It's a, we're dealing with a Twisted Fate who his signature is push the wave, roam. Now, the problem with that is that Zed can, with his shadows, relatively match your wave clear. And the moment you hit level 6, you can't be in mid lane. Because yes, your ultimate lets you roam. Zed's ability makes sure you're not allowed to roam because you're dead for another 25 seconds. So I adore this matchup. It's going to be so important that they are allowed to play aggressive. And I think that comes from the jungle vision. We know Once loves to be around his solo laners, and you cannot, as the Zed, afford to get ganked as you commit all in.
When they do decide to commit all in, I think that is going to be important to see which comes down first, the yellow card or the Zed ultimate, because there is a lot of outplay potential right now for Nahyun. But I want to talk about Once this game, because they popped off on their Lee Sin last game. They did not manage to take the win, but they have got all of the tools to do it. Their bot lane, they have Senna, who slows and roots, pretty good setup. Against 2 immobile ranged champions, very good. They have a Twisted Fate gold card. Pre-6, that's free real estate in the mid lane. Top lane, well, we already saw last game Rayfaki and Once were giving Gnar a bad time, and I imagine we're going to get a repeat performance right now in this game. I'm curious to see what summoners Rayfaki's going to opt for, to see if they're actually just going to ghost down Nap in this lane.
I would be amazed if Rayfaki went for a Ghost Flash Darius, but I would adore it beyond all belief. Because that means at no point, even when you get to the mid game, when everyone's playing a macro, you've got to make sure your teleport's up, that Rayfaki can just kill at pleasure. Because you go for Stride Breaker on the Darius, I assume you will at least, and there is no escape from the Darius once he's got Stride Breaker, once the Ghost has been popped, once he gets on top of you. I don't think there's a champion that can escape from that sort of position. So we'll see if that goes, because if that is, that's going to be about the greatest thing we've seen today, I think.
We've actually got some stats for Rayfaki's Darius, and they actually have the highest CSD at 15 on their 10 games on Darius against this matchup. So it's going to be seeing how they go. We've got Burning Core versus CGA. This is going to be a battle to see if we can have Burning Core finish 1-1 and make this a even start to the split.
Oh, I'm hoping it's going to be a bloodbath more than a battle here, as it is the Ghost on the Darius here. Rayfaki is not messing around, and I think the best part of that is that even without the teleport from top lane, you've still got a Twisted Fate with teleport. That's a double global, so you don't even get punished for the mid game.
It is a good compensation tool. They also have the Tahm Kench and the Senna in pocket, both of which can offer a lot of global presence. So is going to have plenty of ways to actually answer if they do try and split stuff up by CGA. And I want to point out that you have both the Rumble and the Seraphine. In reality, that removes a lot of potential to avoid this equalizer, because in a lot of the games we've seen today, you've had these Enchanter supports who have mitigated a lot of the Rumble ults. Now, Tahm Kench, they only save one person, and they do not save them forever.
Yeah, it's a timing more than anything else that this Tahm Kench can buy, and well, I guess it's not going to be enough. Even if the Tahm Kench goes to the likes of the Iron Solari Locket, I'm not so sure that that's going to be enough to mitigate the damage coming from the jungler. There is the AI. The AI sees the same things that I do. They see the Zed and they get super excited. I'm not so sold on the teleport, but the Zed is still something worthy of that extra bit of love.
I think that the teleport answer makes sense because it gives you the ability to side lane, especially considering the enemy Darius was likely to go Ghost. It does mean now you can actually play the 1-3-1, provided you are able to play in positions where Darius can't just run you down. Because I think later on into this game, Rayfaki is going to be a massive problem, because I don't see a single CGA member who can handle them alone.
I would offer the Zed, except that no, not even the Zed can handle the likes of a Darius in the.
It's big skill right there. You need some big skill right there.
Yeah, it's like you can in theory, but in execution, it's going to be ridiculously difficult. So it depends on how they're feeling. I mean, if you're willing to lock in a Z in this situation, you got to be feeling pretty confident to begin with. So we'll see how that takes itself when we do get to that mid-game point. But we are simply in the early game now, and surprise, surprise, looking at this bottom lane here, Proud and Yuhi are just being pushed in, and the ranged versus melee matchup, it always hurts to be Proud in this situation, because you're just sort of forced to take the abuse, and there's not a whole lot you can do. You're just going to be thinking to yourself, yes, just wait 20 minutes until we're relevant.
And hilariously, we've seen basically this matchup in the bot lane earlier today by CGA. They ended up getting first blooded at level 2 by the Senna. That was Zenit with the set next to them as opposed to the Tahm Kench. So they should fare much better in this matchup, as they're actually said, we don't even want to be here level 2. We got some weird flashbacks happening. We're going to base. Nice little recall here. They're going to be able to walk back to lane and come back with a bit of early power to contest this relatively weak Senna Tahm Kench.
Yeah, and it's not like Senna Tahm Kench can punish them for this early recall here, picking up the tier, which we know all the Varuses adore taking, get that stacked up nice and early. And Proud with this Tahm Kench is defensive, and I think that's why they can afford to do this, as Once is just sort of hanging out by the top lane here, but could be in a bit of trouble, as they will be forced to dash over the wall there. They do have their flash available, but it's not needed to escape alive.
And just to get the big Krog away, not the main share of the gold of that camp, it is actually mainly situated in the small Krogs, and Kassim will interrupt Lee Sin's base, most importantly. They did have a ward there, both junglers going into that fight with perfect information. I think Kassim's going to get cheeky and try and interrupt them again, but they have been spotted, so we'll have to see what they opt to go for here. I don't think you can really kill the Darius here. The champion is renowned for getting 2v1 kills whenever you stroll on up to the lane. And I particularly, if I were them, would not want to risk that against Rayfarki, the experienced Darius player.
Exactly, and to the point of that, they've got the Doran shield, so even though it's like, oh no, he hasn't got Doran's blade, he can't hurt you, you've got to remember that champions like Darius, and I know Renekton is guilty of this as well, they don't need a Doran's blade to solo kill you, because they've got ridiculously good base damages to begin with. So then it's just a little bit of protection, that's where you get the double kills, and that's where everyone's fear of Darius basically spawns from in that top lane. So rather smart to not go for that, and instead I would love to see some early jungle objectives taking. This dragon has just spawned, and I would love to see like once go gank bot lane, get the Twisted Fate ultimate down there as well when they hit level 6, and just really hard commit, because no cleanse coming in from Milan, meaning there is a very real possibility you could do some cheeky shenanigans down here.
And keep your eye out when they do have wards available for the Burning Core bottom lane to see if they can get a flanking ward behind them. Because if you could get a deep ward in and let Twisted Fate TP in, that's great, because then they can do the play proactively in the first place and don't need to expend the ult and can just repeat it shortly after. We do see CGA using that bot lane priority. They secure the first Ocean Dragon. I think that that does most work probably for Nahyun, because they're the only champion in the game that's likely to get poked out in their matchup. Outside of that, nothing too explosive. We've had a couple passive early games today, but I mean, when you've got a Zed waiting in the waiting in the wings, we're okay waiting till 10 minutes. This is fine, because that ultimate gets down to ridiculously low cooldowns. Both Kassim's and Nahyun's ults go down to something like 30 seconds later on into the game, so you need to be very scared as Burning Core.
Yeah, and we're seeing that fear coming early. What?
Okay.
What? That ballsy move, but the Deathmark comes in immediately once. Will get up any troubles. Grona does arrive on the back end of that one. The shadow caused the Darius to look weird, but they'll get first blood out of that one, so that's always a bonus coming in there. What was that?
That was absolute confidence in their teammates right there by once. They were promised that they would have friends, and they were delivered, as Milan's getting chased under tower by this Tahm Kench.
Yeah, I mean, Tahm Kench hurts. The Catfish definitely hits like a damn truck here. Once is playing super aggressive here. Does even have backup, so there's nothing that Kassim can do. Just forced to watch the red buff get taken.
And I really like this early itemization by Garyaru. They have a bit of armor in inventory, which dissuades Nahyun doing anything aggressive. And you see, once tries to steal the crab, gets aggressed on, ward hops out, and is then brought into the waiting arms of the Darius is Zed. They get stunned on the return. There is no safety for them. Very beautifully played by this team right there. Burning Core managing to take advantage of the, I'm going to say, killer instinct that a Zed kind of offers you. It's just that mindset of, I'm Zed, there is a kill here, I must go, my planet needs me.
And I don't think they saw Rayfar or suspected that Rayfaki was, well, where they were. It allowed them to arrive very quickly. And as soon as Neon went in, realized, crap, there's a Darius, I've been apprehended, I gotta go. And unfortunately, we talked about it before, against a ghost Darius, getting away is a bit of a challenge, as a donation of a blue buff to a Zed. Now, this is something I haven't seen since, like, Season 3 days.
I mean, when you're Rumble, you're not making the most use out of it in the first place. It's only ability haste for you, and Zed at least gets the energy regen, so quite big, actually. Is going to be a significant factor for them, will allow them to get some more frequent trades in lane, potentially. May even make the crucial difference after investing an ultimate to look for a follow-up kill. But look at this right here. Gariaru has gone straight up Ionian Boots and the Seeker's Arm Guard, just saying, you do not touch me, you stay very far away. I'm getting my spellbook, I'm going to change to something like Exhaust, and just completely mitigate any attempt at pressure. As speaking of pressure, it's that time of the game again. We've passed 8 minutes, the Herald is up, and CGA want it. And
Burning Core have made the decision to completely give up the objective here. The bottom lane has not rotated, whereas, of course, CGA's bot lane did rotate upwards, so they'll be able to get a push in the mid lane. And we could see something similar to what Hawks did last game. Hawks grabbed the Herald, shoved in the middle lane, and basically took the turret at like 12, 13 minutes, if I'm recalling it correctly. There is every possibility that CGA could just do that now, rotate to the Dragon, which is spawning in a minute and a half, but it looks like, at least for now, the team decided to just get the objective, take the scuttle, go home.
And normally, one of the big punishes you do when the bot lane rotates for Herald is you take plates, but Senna, Tom, Kench do not push minion waves very quickly. Neither of these champions have pretty much any effective AoE in kit, as right now, Once is actually lurking for a kill right here. Rayfaki does not have summoners to force the play, though, so Nap needs to overextend if this is to work for Burning Core.
And I don't see Nap doing that, honestly. I think Nap is abundantly aware that he just needs to play safe. Darius's greatest strength is their snowballability here. So I think playing safe is a really smart call, but I don't think you're allowed to play safe where you've got everyone in the kitchen sink coming at you there. Does get pushed away with a kick, but does get away thanks to the flash. The equalizer, I like the attempt, but not really able to get the connection for CGA's jungler.
Will be 2 ultimates traded for an ultimate and a flash. I think Burning Core will be pleased with that because Gariero can repeat that play again later on when they so choose. As it does mean, though, first effective Destiny used other than in that little mini skirmish we had only really gets a flash. We'll have to see if that ends up paying dividends as Kassin is going aggro.
Let it burn, baby! Kassin on this Rumble pick here does get the push off and might actually just be able to drop the Herald here because, well, there's no one to stop this push. This could be the turret. Do they have enough damage to actually take the turret with
I don't think they kill it. It gets down to 1 plate by the looks of it because they do have Lee Sin on the lurk, ready to join, as it's very close, but it will stay alive for the moment.
Like, you can almost breathe on that thing and it's going to fall over at this point. If Garou makes any sort of roam, his turret will die. And that's really painful for a Twisted Fate because you need that turret to stay safe against the Zed, but you can't make your biggest impact if you don't go for that roam. So does that hurt this Twisted Fate's ability to actually make pressure? Because, like, what do you do now? Do you just sack the turret and hope your play works?
You eventually have to. It's the kind of thing of when it is that low, it really doesn't take much. A stiff breeze, like you're alluding to, would knock that turret down. So it's just a case of you either need your jungler to be mid to collect the wave for you so it doesn't die, but in which case, why is your jungler not doing the gank instead of you? So it's one of those weird circumstances where now taking a look at how they're going to try and play out this bit, Gariaru is left in a really weird spot as the TF, because global champions really have this mid lane tower essential as bot kill is happening potentially.
Alchemy's... Oh no, Alchemy's fine. Oh wait, Deathmark coming in here. I think this might be a panic though, because there is no world where they get out alive.
Yeah, Nathan, this is not what you wanted to see from the Zedlock, and we had really high expectations, but they are not performing right now. They do not get much done in this lane. And Gariaru is getting the better side of it as they even get the best side bot.
Yeah, they commit to the dive on the bottom side here. Milan is trying to fight off the best they can, but it just doesn't matter. The Tahm Kench can tank forever, and that is 2 more kills donated over to Burning Core.
They don't offer the most wave clear, but they definitely offer the best dive threat under turret right now, as it looks like we will have Nathan collect this first blood tower. Some silver lining for them using that teleport is 2 kills worth of gold. And let's take a look at what happened in the replay. Is the red card into Force. I can't honestly say I know what Nathan was thinking. He must have just not seen once as soon as he pressed R and then realized it was doomed immediately after. And then watch this on the bottom side. We have just the forced play, and I really like what Alchemy does here of they tried to flash away to avoid Milan getting rooted, but they're already hit by the Sonic Wave by Lee Sin, so effectively doesn't mean anything and just results in whatever the hell is happening now.
Once is in trouble here. I'm not so sure that's the play, buddy. I love the aggression, though. Unfortunately, he was a little outnumbered.
They're about 10 energy off getting the Seraphine kill there, but I don't think they ever get out. Would be curious to know how they got into that circumstance, but once does go down. Not exactly the person you wanted to be dying, considering they have that 100% kill participation right now. Really not the shout if you're a Burning Core fan, but they do have the lead. Let's take a look and see what actually happened here.
Oh, contestant around Dragon. It's got to be. Q's in.
Who gets it?
It goes on to Kasten. That should be a kill onto the Rumble.
Oh, and
then one's just hard chases for it.
Okay, so it's a 1-for-1 in the end of the day, and they stop the dragon. I will find out when we go back to live to see if that dragon was secured by somebody. As look at this, once gets really, really close. As they actually do get the Q reactivation, is just the moments where Nathan is able to get the free hit. Nobody secures that Infernal Dragon, though, as we see coming into live, and that is likely why Rayfarki has taken the mid lane, because Garyaru has the teleport for top. No flash available on Milan. There is constant aggression this game. We were promised a banger, and we are getting one such banger.
Yeah, I'm loving this kind of aggression in. It's what you need. Look at the champions. You've grabbed a Darius, a Zed. They love to get in the thick of things and get the fight going. So once is assassinating this dragon. We'll be able to pick it up, and I'm not sure Kasten is in any position to do anything about it for now. But look what's spawning in 15 seconds. If the LJL performs like I think the LJL perform, we're probably going to get a bit of a fight on the top half of the map with this second Rift Herald spawning up.
And I really like the Eclipse pickup over the Prowler's Claw this game, and that is mainly because this Senna will get insanely tanky later on, so the max health damage will be rewarded against everybody pretty much, except for Garyaru this game. So that is at least some silver lining for Nathan scaling later into the game, but I agree, looking at this one now, the most important thing for me though is this Herald, as we have seen this be pretty contested and everybody is in range to do so.
Yeah, we're going to get a fight here. Nap does have Mega Knight. He's looking for something, but Yuhi is just a little bit out of range with that Divine Sunder ready to go there. The Tahm Kench does save Yuhi out from the Equalizer, like we were talking about before. Only can save one, but when you only hit one, it's not that hard to save them. Surprise, surprise. And now the Herald has been started up. Does CGA go to contest this?
I would personally prefer they just run it down mid here and take a second tower, because in reality, that's all this Herald is going to get. As we do see the contest begin, people are positioning, and the Herald goes over to once.
Yeah, commit to the fight, CGA. You've positioned for it, but instead there's no... they can go to that flank. That is a hell of a ballsy play. But I think Er's on the side of caution in there. But CGA, their positioning was really weird, because they could have just, as you said, run it down mid and take a tier 2 turret. And instead, they sort of just watched Burning Core secure themselves an objective.
The only reason I imagine they wouldn't have gone for it is because if you do overextend, then Rayfarki can get ulted in by Proud behind you, and suddenly it looks terrifying because you are being flanked from every angle. So I suppose it was just CGA saying, a mid lane tier 2 tower isn't worth the risk of getting aced into losing many off of them having Herald here. So they take the safer play, deciding not to opt for anything aggressive. There is a 3k gold lead over to Burning Core right now, so taking a look at this one at this point in the game. Mythics checkup, we have got mostly of Mythics done at this point. We have actually seen that Garyaru has opted for the Zonyas before the Everfrost. That is a statement right there saying, Nathan, I am paying my tax way before I need to. I am done. You cannot touch this.
But I love that that's what they've decided to go for. Yes, it does slow down their power a little bit, but you're not exactly locking in the Twisted Fate because you want 100 to 0 someone. You're doing it so you can have map pressure, you're doing it so you can clear the wave. So I think it's a really clever decision to be like, as you said, the Zed wants to snowball, you're denying them that ability to get things kicking off in the side lanes. And speaking of the side lanes, look where Once is, and look where Anar is. I've seen this song and dance before.
Yeah, I'm getting a strange sense of deja vu, and I really don't like it because I feel like Nap is not. Yeah, they're not going mega here. They've got Flash, and that's it.
Yeah, that should be Nap very much dead. So Rayaki has the ultimate and will be able to grab that up, and that could drop Rift Herald here if they're feeling confident. But there is a lot of people rotating for them.
I think they want to save it for mid, ideally, because at least that way they can remove some kind of pressure from the game. Taking a look, though, they will just back off. Do not secure that turret, but they do have a fair bit of time now before this dragon is up in 1:15. I want to see resets start to come in if they're going to come in at all. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to spend any of the gold in inventory, and you will be a bit weaker for the dragon fight than you otherwise would be.
That reset will come after it's secured as the ultimate coming out there from Yuhi. And a dodged Encore. Alchemy is hurting after that one there. Gets away with a sliver of HP, but that will be the tier 1 in mid-falling, and now Burning Core can simply back up, reset, set up for Dragon, and they'll be good to go for the 3rd Dragon of the game.
Absolutely brutal right there, not getting anything in return on the CGA squad, and everybody gets their reset in. It's a bit late from Burning Core, but because everybody was so chunked out from CGA, they're just going to walk up to this Dragon late, and they're going to be in a losing spot doing so. Right now, Nap is just building up Mega Gnar stacks so they could potentially look for a TP, but they still have that Divine Sunderer, not the Stride Breaker, which means they are not going to do much here, and it looks like CGA are just saying, have the dragon, it's only a cloud.
Yeah, with that repush, Nap will get Mega Gnar, and it's basically the signature saying we're not going to fight this objective, or if we are, it's not going to be an optimal contest. So I kind of hope they just sort of give up the objective. We've even seen Cassin on the top half of the map recalling, so give it up. And look, it's a Cloud Dragon. It's not exactly the worst thing in the world to simply give up the objective if you're not confident, to go for that kind of fight. So I really do like this call coming in from CGA. They don't have to play it fast because they do have the Varus. They do have the Rumble. Scaling's a bit of a problem. There is, of course, the center, but it's not like their composition doesn't have threats in the late game.
Well, I'll tell you what does add a lot of threat to the late game is, hilariously, Cloud Dragons, Cloud Soul, and a Cloud Rift. It is really hard to 1-1 against a Cloud Rift, because if Zed and Gnar go to side lanes, it's very quick for people to just walk there, and Burning Core have astounding tools to counterattack, but right now they are going to look like they're overextended here, likely got an Equalizer.
Yeah, Proud does gobble up Yuhi, but will it be enough to get the center out alive? It looks like they might, as the reinforcements have come in from the back end there once, looking what they can in the backline. Yuhi is left untouched. The assassination failed completely as Nap uses that Gnar, but unfortunately it does nothing. Milan is running for their life here, but Burning Core don't give a damn when Ray Farkey's on the prowl.
Absolutely counterattacked right there. The Avengers assemble in a second, and that's how quickly you could collapse. They only have the actual rift changed, and now they're going to secure the Baron. There's absolutely nothing CGA can do. Even though Nap respawns, the Gnar isn't going to do diddly to this Baron objective. Absolutely brilliantly done by Burning Core. It looked like they overextended, but in reality they knew their limits, and their limits are the moon in this game.
Yeah, and when we do get to see the replay, I really want to look at the attempted assassination of Yuhi by this Zed and just how quickly it falls apart, because it looks to start off relatively well. Yuhi overextends, Nathan finds his opening, but then look at this backup here. Yuhi is just completely out. They realize we're engaging onto Proud, and then the Zed ults the Tahm Kench.
It's not good. It's not good, Captain. We see that in the middle of that, Seraphine gets absolutely detonated, and Proud zones off the Zed. They do end up escaping here, is Nahian, but everybody else is left to the slaughter docks as Rayfaki and co chase down Milan, do secure that one, get the Baron, so beautifully done by Burning Core, and we are seeing a whole different team. The execution is just brilliant. This is way better than we had them at the end of last split, at very least, and I am loving what I'm seeing this game.
It's looking really good for this team here. And I think it's, surprise, surprise, coming on the back of Rayfaki and Once. These two are doing, they did really well last game. They're doing really well this game. And you have to hope that this is where they continue to generate pressure from.
And I'm just going to point out, the one thing I'm being fed in production right now is Burning Core have done this just to spite us, because not even random.gg predicted this kind of result. As, rightfully so, Rayfaki, though, getting caught out, but they have friends.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure this is the call here, buddy, because Once and Rayfaki, we talked about these two are the heart of Burning Core in the early game aggression, and unfortunately, they just punch CGA in the face as hard as humanly possible.
Oh, Once is smurfing in Crestlow this game. It is just disgusting. That is beautiful right there. Magic to save Rayfaki and get everybody bar Milan. This game is all but done, frankly. They could ace under Fountain right now, and it would still be Burning Core favored.
Yeah, because look at the gold difference between these two teams. It's reached what I call the mark. 10,000 gold is where the game is considered nearly irrecoverable. Well, we've reached that point. 7 turrets, 10,000 gold, 14 kills in the favor of Burning Core here. They are doing phenomenally. And, oh, we get to witness it. Look at this. This is great.
Oh, it's just brilliant. Actually holding them still right there with the pull into kick, getting maximum CC. And watch this by Once. They actually get the E off before they fly in to kill Nap. Meanwhile, Guerriero is absolutely demolishing this Seraphine. There's nothing they can do. And they just continue to break open the game. And you know what? I don't feel like we're going to see Zed again, which is sad, because I don't think I had a problem with the pick. It is just this game's execution is not going too hot for Crest.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of teleport on the Zed. I feel like you need to be getting kill pressure. You need that ignite. So maybe if we look for... Oh my god!
Uh-oh!
Once and Proud are feeling... I don't blame them. Once has been playing phenomenally today. Twice from the Lee Sin. I honestly think you need to start seeing Lee Sin bans come against this guy, because it is ridiculous what he's done on this champion today. Wait, that was like half...
He just stole for blue buff. He just stole for blue buff. Like, I think that what they were doing there was seeing if anybody was lurking on bot side to go for a cheese play as Rayfaki was running down there. But that's being very generous, and is frankly just because of how far ahead Burning Core are. It really doesn't mean much. Now is a very brief window where people can be punished. Tom Kench and Twisted Fate are down. But frankly... CGA just do not have the tools, they do not have the abilities, and they don't have the gold to fight them right now. This is a statement from Burning Core right now, and we are seeing the bottom of our standings start to rise up, and potentially we may see a shake-up in the middle coming to the later games in this split.
Well, Burning Core can keep playing like this, and there's a lot of other teams that need to really start worrying about this top and jungle duo, as CGA forced to concede inhibitor number 2 here, and now Burning Core could honestly just back away, take the 3rd inhibitor, allow doubled up super minions to crash into CGA's base. And what can CGA actually do in this sort of situation? I feel like a death bush is probably one of their best options now.
Only options, and it's not even a good one, because you're playing into the Senna, the Twisted Fate, and the Tahm Kench. So if you look down that list, who are you picking? You don't kill Tahm Kench quick enough. You don't kill the Darius quick enough. Lee Sin can escape in most worlds because they have the Gore Drinker in inventory. So it's realistically either the Senna, who would need to be overextending, or the guy who first items Zhonya's. I feel like it's pretty doomed, but they are going for the Death Bush at least, and they're trying to get Once.
Yeah, they will catch them out there. The stopwatch is available. They don't have time to use it even. And that will be a demolish. Even the TP coming in from Naeun really wanting to get involved.
I mean, I'm not going to say it was a bad investment, frankly, at this point. If anything, they were just hoping that all of the bells would ring and everybody would collapse from Burning Core. Maybe they could get an opportunistic fight that swings the game back a bit. But killing the jungler a minute before Baron it's not going to do much, unfortunately. And now with those cooldowns burnt, the Encore, I think, is the biggest one that got used there that just will not be up for Baron and means that is likely the game. Look at this. Yuki is just AFKing, waiting for Proud to come in. They are just not overstepping. This is great patience from the team. And Burning Core, they are looking great.
I love this, that they were waiting for each other, because once went in alone and got killed because they were alone. So Burning Core making sure they don't make the same mistake twice, send in everyone together, make sure Proud's the one frontlining it, because even if Proud gets damaged a little bit, look at Proud's itemization here. They've pretty much rushed that Warmog. So anything that, for example, Milan throws into the Tahm Kench is null and void.
Is an absolute nuisance to deal with in these fights, as right now they're trying to run it back. Alchemy will be the victim.
The Alchemy forced the flash to safety. Will it be enough? The answer is, well, no. It won't be enough there. They'll get simply gunned down. Milan now forced to run for it. I'm not so sure it will get away after the gold card roots them in place. No QSS to get out alive. Kassin very likely to get dived under here. Rayfaki joining them as well with the stopwatch to ensure that no one on the side of Burning Core goes down.
Pain. This is pain. There's nothing they can do. It's just so sad.
This is like second dodgeball with
the game. Yeah, and they've got cannons. Burning Core are using cannons in dodgeball right now. This is just brutal. The game will 100% end here. They could actually die to Fountain, and the minions would probably be able to take Seraphine upon respawn. So that will be the game. Very well played by Burning Core. I'm going to say unexpected. Most people are going to say unexpected. How brilliant to see that we have got contention from the lower ranks.
I love it. This is the team that coming into this season, we were, you're talking about how they didn't perform too well. We weren't expecting a lot out of them. And they have decided to say, no, screw your expectations. We're coming in and we're taking this win on a team that no one was expecting us to be able to take down. And Burning Core, if every team has upped their game like Burning Core has, I am so excited for what the LJL is going to present later on down the track. Because if this is the standard for the mid-ranked team and the lower-ranked teams, what are the higher-ranked teams going to have to do to stay on top? It's going to be a hell of a climb.
And I am going to be terrified to see if this is the case where it's just the lower teams moving up, or if it's everybody raising their level. Obviously, we will get to find out. Let's just finish this replay a moment and take a looky-loo, as it is just Avengers assembling, and there is no escape from Once's Lee Sin. They don't need the Zonyas here, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there. It's just to make Nahian even sadder. As finishing up this replay, the game shortly ends. There is no escape from the Burning Core. And I think we will avoid burning the midnight oil for you, and we'll throw to a quick break so we can get Nymera back in.
Hey guys, welcome back to the LJL. I am Midnight, joined still by Minivizel, and of course rejoined by Nymera after game number 4 today between two teams. And let's be honest, with that game, there was a lot going on between CGA and Burning Core. So I think let's start at the most logical place in the series of events that we got to witness, which was the Zed, the Darius, and the pick and ban, because there is a lot to look at here. And I think for Burning Core specifically, they're finally looking like they were meant to be.
Again, so we go to the draft, and, you know, the land of ninjas delivers what it's promised. We get ourselves a Lee Sin on one side, we get ourselves a Zed on the other side. But, one thing which I just kind of forgot about somehow is that Darius is actually Ray Farkey's main champion, and I'm really sorry for not throwing that to you guys in pregame or at any other point. I'm just like, oh yeah, this guy has a load of bans of that champion against him, and he does occasionally pull it out. That's his 11th game on the champion so far. Both of these teams tried to have really strong side lane presence. We had a Zed, we had a TF, we had that Darius. We knew that both teams were trying to get individual advantages to the point where you can start crushing through areas of the map in like-for-like strengths. You're trying to pip the other person to the post on that, and that didn't really end up being the story of the game for CGA, did it, Melvin?
Yeah, the initial play in the river is really just the point where it all went wrong for Nathan. Like, you can easily just do the pause the video here. All right, you can see the moment where his entire game plan broke as Nathan gets completely memed by once in that game and is just fed to the wolves of Ray Farkey that continue to run down, nap that game. There was no escape whatsoever. Relentless is the only word I can think of for Burning Core.
Yeah, that's from Burning Core. Again, I think there's not a whole lot more we can say on the fact that Once is playing out of their mind in this first week, getting access to Lee Sin, which means they're pretty much forced to play early game aggressive, which for some players is a problem. For Once, it looks like they're bread and damn butter coming into this. Their lane proximity again this match was ridiculous. Their mechanics are, surprise, surprise, phenomenal on the Lee Sin. And then that does a really good job to set up for the other points of pressure on their team, which may or may not have involved a top lane Darius running Ghost.
Yeah, and I'll let you take the next point first, Melvin, but I really want to jump in on this one, just because I'm willing to admit Burning Core have completely blown my expectations out of the water, considering what they did in Spring. That was a very difficult split for them. But coming into Spring, we thought they'd be upgrading on their 2020 summer roster. This is the Burning Core we were promised when Gadiadu came in to replace Yu-Gi-Oh!, to replace the era of Rocky coming in from that Burning Core roster. We thought they'd play around topside. Once had a tough time in Spring, who couldn't really make the Graves performances stick, couldn't really find a champion to be that carry that the team has needed. In both of the games today, and it is only week 1, he has looked absolutely on fire, and that's unlocked the top side of the map. And all of this, while bot lane isn't dying randomly, isn't being the liability they were in Spring as well. It's 1 week, but if this is a trajectory which continues in this state, this is a very scary sign, because in Spring, we pegged these as potentially a third finish placing team. Very strong on their peak.
And I think the bottom is really the place that I want to talk about here. Yuhi and Proud doing a great job making the team proud, actually, simply put. They do not end up falling in this lane that we have seen that Milan and Alchemy had a couple missteps against the Senna earlier today, but they did fine this time. Absolutely nothing aggressive happening down there, which just allowed once Gariaro to absolutely roam top lane over and over again. And frankly, the most important part to me is, yes, we've talked about it, but that is good recognition of the game plan. You understood we have got one of the safest bot lanes in the world. We have got Senna and Tahm Kench. If these two find a way to in on this, then we weren't winning the game in the first place. So we could put them on a hilariously safe lane. They did actually win a lot of the trades they went for in that lane, and just enabled constant forcing, just absolutely ruining the time of this top side. And maybe this is what we need to see Nar get kicked out of the LJL firsthand. It is just the rise of Ray Farkey.
It's a bit rough. Like, again, Nar is the default, let's just pick it LJL top laner. So and we talked about maybe not being as much diversity in the champion pool. Well, this kind of aggression forces that, because now, even if it's just against the likes of Burning Core, you cannot just default to a Nar. now you've got to actually start considering, well, what other top laners can we go for? Do we want to try and match Rayfaki's prowess with another carry like a Camille or Fiora if you're feeling really confident, even
When's
like
Gwen
something
gonna be a
Aurelia? Yeah, or can we just bring out the Gwen, please? Please, bring out the Gwen. So a lot of default champions don't work against Burning Core. And then from CGA's side, not only do you need to get a new top laner, you might, if you're going to go for this Zed assassin mid laner, you need to give them the room to work with, and you need to actually be able to do a little bit more in the early game.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is about, I mean, what Melvin is was saying in terms of like just actually identifying what you need to do to win. What's the game plan? What are you doing with this? But obviously after that, Burning Core, they walk away 1-1. Both of your guys' first weeks on the LJL is now done. You've signed off. You put in your full shift. So I guess moving away from this game and going back to like the first 4 games of the day and the last 2 for you, Midnight, how have you enjoyed your first tenure on the LJL, your first tour of duty? How's it gone for you guys?
I've had a great time, honestly. It feels very weird to be casting a region that isn't, Oceania. But I must say, what the LGL brings to the table is a bit more stability than what I'm used to casting. Normally, I'm used to people being like, oh yeah,
I didn't see that in the last
I'm going to lock him in for this game. I mean, yeah, but, I love me a good Zed. I can't help myself. I see Chaz playing Zed at MSI. I've got a love for that champion now. So, but all in all, it's been really, really interesting, and I cannot wait to see how these teams go, because it's very different to how the first half of the split went for them.
Absolutely. And Malvin Izzle, fantastic cast on the day yourself. How are you feeling?
I'm green with envy, one might say. I have been loving watching these games play out. They have been nothing but explosive and hilarious to watch one way or the other. And frankly, I couldn't think of a better time to join right now, because everything seems to be getting shaken up. We'll have to see if the upper end of our teams can continue with that trajectory, or if we get more of the expected. But if the game quality is anything like this from what is reality most of our bottom end of the bracket, then it's only going to be bangers from here.
Well, on that note, I think that's going to be the wrap up for our first 4 games, which does mean that myself and Melvin Izzle will be taking a back seat, but there is still plenty more LJL action coming. We still have 4 more games waiting in the wings. Well, I believe, Naimera, you're going to be on the casting desk for that one, so that'll be very fun to watch. But on that note, guys, don't go anywhere. The 5th game of the night, I should say, will be starting off soon, and that will be DFM up against RJ. So guys, don't go anywhere, and there'll be just a moment.